Hello, welcome to the AI Expert Lockdown Spotlight series. We're conducting interviews with key industry stakeholders to understand the challenges that have come up due to COVID-19 and some of the lessons that have been learned as a result of the pandemic. Our guest today is Saji Raghavan, non-executive director of SIRIM Bhd, which is the Standard and Industrial Research Institute of Malaysia. Hi Saji, welcome to AI Expert Lockdown Spotlight. Thanks for speaking to us.
Thank you.
Thanks. Could you just give us a quick introduction and tell us a little bit about yourself?
Well, my name is Saji Raghavan. I'm a Malaysian residing near the city of Kuala Lumpur. I'm also on the board of Audit Expert Malaysia ever since the company was set up a couple of years ago. I used to work full-time for multinationals such as Alstom and Royce. Basically CEO and country manager in Malaysia and Philippines, and at times Singapore. Those two companies. So since last 5 years, I've been on the board of SIRIM, like you described. So at the moment, I'm doing a very non-executive role. However, it's also exciting. It's also impacted everyone in the company, including the non-executive directors who are not full-time.
Cool, thanks. And for you, what have been the kind of standout observations on some of the drastic changes that have been taking place?
Well, for one, in Asia, it's very important that you build relationship, personal relationship. You meet customers face-to-face, you meet suppliers face-to-face, and of course, interacting with your colleagues in the office. Well, that has really taken a 180-degree turn. I thought initially that would be bad, but funnily enough, with the advent of application like Zoom, Microsoft Teams, and whatnot, actually has brought people, I would say, not closer, but certainly not more distant than what it used to be. Only thing is, you get calls, video calls any time of the day. So, whether it's for business or social, so maybe that's a drawback. But certainly it has helped to bridge the missing link of not meeting people directly.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I guess that kind of social aspect is difficult, but in what are the kind of major ways your life has changed since the pandemic kind of started?
Yeah, certainly one thing for sure, the business and the social diaries are a little bit more sparse, but that doesn't mean that we are not doing anything. It's a bit more targeted. Otherwise, it was meetings on ends, whether it's business or social, starting from morning till midnight. But now it's a bit more targeted. Of course, you get the odd, unofficial calls, but other than that, you can plan better because everybody is in the same boat. So, yeah, you spend more time at home rather than the office or out entertaining. So that's a very drastic change. But funny enough, being able to adapt to that. Again, like I said, because of the medium of communication has also kind of enlarged last couple of months. And also business applications, people are taking to do things online, sharing documents, we get things signed and reviewed all online, sharing documents. So that's something that companies didn't really use it, except for some multinationals, which is always against the natural liking of staff to be together. But I think this couple of months, it has taught all of us that work can be done outside the office and not having to be in the office. Nevertheless, you would have seen, CEOs of Microsoft saying it's always good to also meet once in a while. Some other people say, not necessarily. So, two philosophies out there, but I tend to believe that a combination is very good. Certainly, meeting people is high up on the agenda, but until vaccine comes along, it will be a challenge, and we have to make do with the medium that we have.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. And in your role as non-executive director of SIRIM Bhd, what, from your experience, are some of the key challenges that technology firms are facing now?
Well, in our case, certainly there's been a hit on revenue. However, we believe that customers who have deferred work because they couldn't get into the office, or their production has slowed down or not even running, they will need to catch up when the work comes back to normal pace. So it's more of a delay in revenue rather than reducing revenue. Of course, there'll be companies out there that will suffer because they've not been able to manage their cash flow in these bad times. Some companies are less prepared than the others. Of course, they will have a tough time staying afloat. A lot of jobs are at stake, but certainly larger companies and companies well managed, even SMEs, will will be able to survive. Although it's not going to be easy, but certainly will survive. Again, it all depends on the world economy, because all of us are very global. Exports need to come back to 100%, but it will take some time because the big importers are also suffering in Europe, in other parts of Asia. So those with staying power will survive, but at the same time, this gives an opportunity for people to review productivity, efficiency of organization, and such like, and plan better for such risks in future. I don't think any company is well prepared for this, because no one has seen this in 100 years, and all of us have short memories of you not alive 100 years ago. So yeah, it's all about adaptability.
Yeah, I think we'll get on to the kind of general preparedness of firms in a moment, which is obviously an interesting topic. But what steps can firms take now to mitigate some of these challenges, especially in an era of remote working?
I think they certainly will have to fortify their IT system. They will have to embrace new technology. Uh, I would say most companies are IT savvy and they are well equipped, but I don't think they were equipped enough to have the bandwidth to handle 100% of work online, and to use different tools. For instance, there were files stored on company servers or on PCs in the office, which are not readily available when they're working from home. So not everything was digitized, and companies further down the digital path would have fared better. For instance, I was talking to an American engineering firm. They only saw loss of productivity for 2 days, and they were quickly back on track because they embraced this technology early. And I think companies will learn from this, and they need to be prepared.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, cost is an issue, but I think with volume, cost will eventually come down for everyone. It will be affordable in future.
And what do you think will be some of the kind of short-term impacts of COVID-19 on the technology industry? And then going forward in the long term, what will be some of their main impacts?
I think the short term will be whether the companies have the capacity to serve the sudden surge in demand. A very common example is Zoom. Their security was compromised, and they're still struggling to assure users that it's a safe tool to use. Of course, there'll be other ERP systems, artificial intelligence companies that will need to scale up quickly and simplify processes of implementation so more companies can take it up. So that'll be the short term. Long term, yes, again, there'll be a lot of demand for very strong application and also the service that goes with it. So that'll be the long term implication for digital companies and also the users.
And just coming back to the point you made earlier about the kind of preparedness of firms, and you already sort of said you didn't think they were prepared. What could they have done in terms of their business continuity plans and risk management to prepare better? And what can they think about in terms of those two aspects going forward after the crisis?
Yeah, I think traditionally when you look at BCP plans, it's about what happens if your office burns down and you don't have access to your files, or there is some kind of lockdown in the country, or some badgering of the economy. So you always had, simple solutions. If office is not available, then use a center where PCs are provided for you to work. But no one saw this health pandemic that cuts across all fabrics, IT, and industry. And this is something that no one is prepared for. But I must say that in terms of trying to adapt, I think companies were quite good at it. Even those who are not down the digital path, they could adopt quickly, although at maybe 25% or 50% capacity. But certainly, people are more educated, more IT savvy. They are adaptable and they try to adapt. So, like just I said, a company that was really digitized, they just lost 2 days of productivity because just setting up things for people at home. But once they got running, they're back to 100%. So that's what I've heard, and that's my view as well.
And in terms of the, you said firms that are kind of more IT savvy are sort of able to adapt quicker. Do you think the current situation will act as a stimulus for digital transformation, as well as kind of automation for firms, whatever the industry?
Yeah, for sure. Not only just office application, but with the advent of Industry 4.0, the industrial revolution, so there'll be more need for automation, remote assessment and access, remote control, and not depending on just people, but on processes that's automated, so anybody can just jump in and then take over the reins. So it becomes even more important, and this has really opened up the eyes of companies who are very wary about fourth IR. Now they can see how. So if digital companies can take advantage and say, okay, we marry artificial intelligence with DCP, with industrial revolution, I think there will be a very good uptake, whatever the size of the company and wherever in the world.
Yeah, so I think we're definitely seeing a rise in the importance of automation and things like artificial intelligence. What can firms do, and what should they do during these times, not just to survive, but to emerge even stronger with a sort of greater competitive edge?
I think now's the time with a little bit less focus on business because the demand hasn't quite come back up. This is a time that they should take an inward look, analyze all their business processes and say, what can be automated, what are redundant, and what are the new steps they need to take, and then work with IT firms. So, companies like Audit Expert are in a better position to advise. Because I believe IT companies have more knowledge in this, so maybe it should be opportunity for IT companies now to provide consultancy to users, and instead of just waiting for them to specify their need, maybe IT companies can tell them, this is a host of things that you can do for them. Maybe even do consulting in terms of trying to change their processes. The Big Four do that, so maybe work with the Big Four, even IT company like Audi Expert can do that in-house. So this is very important.
Yeah, so my final question, I guess, just follows on from that. Obviously, you say IT companies could play a major role, but what specifically is the role of kind of technology in helping firms at this time?
Now it's more about how to do business under the new norms. Like I said earlier, face-to-face meetings are going to be rare, at least for the next 1 year. International travel, I don't know, it's going to take 2-3 years. So you really need such medium and such automated processes to roll out and do things in companies, and also working with other companies and customers or vendors across the seas. So it becomes even more important. So now, like I said earlier, now's the time to rationalize your processes and get your house in order. So you have actually a 1-year window to do that. In a breakneck world of business, you will not have that luxury. So seize the opportunity now.
Excellent. So we've covered some really interesting points, how face-to-face meetings are no longer possible, how firms are struggling with not so much reduced revenue, but kind of delayed revenue. You also mentioned that you thought firms kind of weren't prepared for the crisis, but there seems to be the ones who are able to kind of use IT and technology are the ones that are adapting to it more quickly. So yeah, I think it's been a really interesting interview. Really enjoyed speaking to you, and thank you everyone for watching, and thank you Saji for joining us on our AI Lockdown Spotlight series.
Thank you, Robin, and stay safe.